Like that, didn't you? Made you want to go cut some weapons, take apart your gun, play checkers with some bullets. So you use a smoker, you barbecue, you make all vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, taste-free, filling-free foods. Whatever your case is. Let's build a damn cutting board. Let's get to it. So here we have a big ass piece of walnut. We're going to start this off by measuring out 24 inches, which for this first project is what we decided. And then we're going to put a little piece of cedar wood down there just to make sure that everything's roughly the same length. It's all going to get squared up and cut in the end. And we'll use this last piece of walnut on something else. It's a little too short and no one likes short wood anyway. Ain't that right, ladies? And then it's to squaring up one side on the joiner on all three pieces. And then as soon as that's done, yep, you guessed it, right over to the table saw. Now before we put our wood through the saw, we have to lube everything up real nice, because the better lube, the less friction, the happier you're going to be with the wood. And my riv knife apparently somehow or another got bent. Oh, that's a little obstacle to overcome during this, but we'll fix that later. And then it's just repeat on the other side to make everything nice and square and straight and smooth. Now, because sometimes I'm just absolutely lazy, my dust collector was full and it started slinging chips everywhere. So rather than stop right in the middle and having to restart again, I just put on a mask and turned my air cleaner on. After that, just laying them in the clamps, putting on some glue, spreading it around, and if you got a fancy roller or brush or whatever, you can use it, but my 51-cent putty knife from the Orange Depot works just as good. Just as a quick shock tip, remember when you clamp everything up, it doesn't have to be tight like prom night. You know, just gentle pressure. Just remember, you know, it's a first date, not a hooker. There's no reason to put an excessive amount of pressure through the clamps. Just enough to hold it and get a little bit of squeeze out. So then next we cut a couple of pieces of maple to make a different board with. Wait a minute, we just did this. Then we cut them into a bunch of thin strips, and then we go around, and then we glue them up, then we sand them down, and yeah, you've seen it. Let's save time. Fast forward to the glue up. And here I'm just moving all the big pieces of squeeze out with a chisel. Yes, I could have wet a rag. Yes, I could have wiped it down. It's just the way I chose to do it. And here you see me lubing up the hand plane for less friction again, because I'm an idiot and I glued everything up at once. And it didn't fit in my planer. Also, this would have been a whole lot of sanding, which if you don't have it, that's fine. Use a hand plane, a card scraper, a sander, whatever you got, because not everyone has big expensive equipment. After that, it's on the Crosscut sled for the checkerboard. Now, the only difference in this is you cut it again, and then you take those same strips, you flip them around opposing each other, and you glue them back together. You're starting to see a repetitive process for making cutting boards. At this point, you should be able to figure out that it's cut it into strips, glue it back together, and clamp it up and let it dry. And some of you knuckleheads are going to leave asshole comments and talk about, well, not everybody has an X-Carve or a Shapeoko or whatever. Yeah, look, I get it. Figure out how to make you a box jig. Shop-made jigs will save your life. Just, I've got it. Somebody was nice enough to get one for me. I'm going to use it just because it's a production wood shop. If you don't have one, great, man. Get creative, build your own jigs, figure it out. You can do it, I promise. And while we're on the process and talking of shop jealousy, this is my new drum planer. My wife bought it for me out of nowhere. Yep, I've got it, so I'm going to use it. If you don't like it, get over it. And then I'm going to fill in the carving with some CA glue, hit it with some activator, and then hit it with a box plane and sand the shit out of it to get it flat. It ended up having a couple little pits in it, but I was able to fix it with some clear CA glue on the end of a sewing needle. And then with any woodworking project, yeah, it's time for finishing sanding because the edge grain is going to be exposed as well as the end grain. I sanded to 320, soaked in water and alcohol, raised the grain, sanded again, went all the way up to 400 grit, and then we oiled them and let them dry. And then I'll let this oil set overnight. I put another coat on the next morning, let it dry for a whole day, and then did 2 coats of Odie's oil per their instructions. Then after everything's dried and had time to cure, it's as simple as pre-drilling and putting the feet on with a screwdriver. Alright guys, so that's it. That's 3 cutting boards. There's only 2 here because one already went to a customer, and he's been hiding it from his wife because he spent too much money. But anyway, another job well done. Hell yeah. Take a shot of whiskey, fellas. Because that's the end.